Intersecting Media presents
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
The Next Thing in Late Night Talk.
Here we go.
While you're working, eating, and playing, he's watching.
It'll be like old times.
Keeping you informed.
Thank you.
Jason Page.
Demented and sad, but social.
Covering all the day's news from a studio somewhere in Southeast Asia.
Worldwide!
And talking about it with you.
Blah, blah, blah.
You're Up Late with Jason Page.
Hoo-ah!
Or up early.
Good morning.
But just stay up.
It is time.
Here's Jason.
So good to be with you on this 25th of January in the United States, this 26th of January in Singapore, 2021. As Chad Erickson said, I am Jason Page. So glad to be back talking with all of you. Outside of doing like quarantine videos on Facebook Live, I haven't really done all that much on the video realm since we stopped doing the sports show I was doing over the spring and summer, which was a fun, nice little experiment in terms of kind of figuring out the whole dynamic of streaming live video. And we've kind of taken it to the next level, or we're looking to take it anyway, to the next level here in Singapore with Intersecting Media, and we're doing it really a global show. I know a lot of people will say, well, you know, you're in Singapore. Why are you talking about anything in the United States? Well, the reality is I'm from the U.S., and as it stands, the U.S. is still the straw that stirs the drink around much of the world. When I walk around the streets here and talk to people, or even talk with our friends that are Singapore-based, that are born and raised here, a lot of the conversation does center around the United States. Yeah, sure. We talk about things that are going on here in Singapore, and obviously there is a lot going on in Southeast Asia and Asia in general, but inevitably the conversation always turns to what is happening in the United States, whether it's COVID, whether it's the presidential election, whether it's Donald Trump. I even went to a couple of different places here in Singapore, a couple of business establishments, and it was fascinating to watch and fascinating to have conversations with people that are longtime Singaporeans, people born and raised here. And they want to talk about Trump, or they want to talk about Biden, or they want to talk about the way the U.S. It's kind of fascinating to get a peek into what interests people here in Singapore. And it's something I've dealt with on several occasions as I've gone out. So I'm looking forward to doing this show with you guys. We're going to do it Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. Eastern time in the U.S., noon in the afternoons on Singapore. So it's kind of funny to call the show Up Late, because right now if I showed you outside, it's, well, mostly sunny and pretty warm here in Singapore, while back in the United States it's nighttime and you guys are all making your plans for the evening, or maybe not making plans for the evening in much of the country. Is I know a lot of you are battling the COVID pandemic there, and obviously a lot of shutdowns have taken place. So a little bit about what this show is and what it isn't. It's only going to be an hour. I'm not doing a 2 or 3 hour talk show. I'm doing a 1 hour show. It's a lot of work to even do a 1 hour show, much less a 2 or 3 hour show. So we're doing a 1 hour show here Monday through Friday at 11 p.m. Eastern and noon here in Singapore, where it's actually the following day. I'm talking to you from 13 hours into the future. Hi. It's not much different. So that's a lot of what we're going to be doing. We'll talk about politics. We will talk about sports. We will talk about entertainment. We will talk about technology, business, the climate, everything. I don't want to just do a show that's strictly political. Now, with that said, today's show is pretty political. John Aravosis will join me. He is the host of the Unprecedented podcast. I'll get some thoughts with him. I got to talk to him just before we came on air today, and actually a 2-segment interview. So you'll get some thoughts from him on a variety of issues as it relates to politics. He leans left politically, but I would not describe him as an uber liberal kind of guest. So if you're tuning in, you're saying, "Wow, what do I want to listen to Jason talk to some liberal for?" You'd be surprised. You'd be kind of surprised what you'll hear from John. when we talk to him a little later on. So we have that coming up. And also, interesting story today out of the U.S. about Florida trying to basically scoop the Olympics out from under Japan, because the Japanese are basically throwing in the towel on the idea of hosting the Olympics for 2021. And Florida's jumped in and said, yeah, you know what? If you don't want it, we'll take it. I'll talk about that coming up a little later on. Also, some thoughts on what is sure to be a thoroughly engaging and entertaining Super Bowl this year between Kansas City and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are back in the Super Bowl in year one of Tom Brady. It is nothing short of amazing. So I moved to Singapore, as a lot of people know. And I've talked about it at some length on Facebook, and I've talked about it at some length on Twitter. But this is a chance for sort of engage people directly on why it is I made the decision to make the move to Singapore. I had actually decided about a year ago. I was going to, my computer's playing games with me here, sorry. I had made the decision about a year ago to make the move here. Because of COVID, I couldn't, because there were restrictions put in place on who could travel in and out of Singapore. Obviously, a lot of you know I'm here as well. Chung, I've used to you guys on a number of occasions, both in pictures and videos and things like that. But I made the decision to move here about a year ago, and finally, just a few weeks ago, I made it here into Singapore. And I made the decision to move here for a number of reasons. One of those was the political element in the United States that a lot of you are living on a daily basis, whether it's in conversations with your friends, conversations with your family, the division of obviously something we've all seen. We've all witnessed the this era that we live in where nobody can have a civil conversation about politics. The second the other side you don't like, well, they're a bunch of racists. It seems to me these days that we're living in a world with it's the edges of the party. It's the edge of the Democratic Party that are the crazy liberals, and it's edges of the Republican Party, conservatives who don't want gays to get married, who can't understand the idea of what's a transgender. QAnon crowd, right? We've always thought those are the fringes, and that the majority can vote either way. Probably some may have voted for Ronald Reagan, some for Obama. But they're kind of in the middle somewhere, that John Kasich crowd, or what a lot of people would. But I'm starting to believe, sadly so, and it was some part of the calculus as to why I made this decision to move to the other side of the world, 9,000 miles away from everybody I love and care about, was the fact that I'm starting to believe that it feels more like a third of the country is crazy right, and a third of the country is somewhere in the middle, where before I would have said it was 55, 27, 27, something like that. You know, the math. Even 2 or 3 years ago, I would have made the argument that most of America was in the middle. But it feels like everyone's chosen a side now, and they're entrenched. And the more I started to interact with people that I knew, and even one's family, because you can't unfriend walk away from family. You can't suddenly decide that, well, I'm going to block family. I mean, I guess some people do. But it's a very difficult thing to do. And for me, when it got to the point that I felt like I couldn't have intellectual, true give and take debates and the most, when those conversations exist, what is there really to talk about? If you can't talk about anything important going on, if all you can discuss is the weather, hey, how's the weather? Yeah, it's great. Hey, is it snowing there? Yeah. If every time you try to have a conversation with somebody, and again, friends, family, Facebook, wherever, and the conversation always leads somewhere like this, well, that's fake news. I heard that on CNN, or you read it in the New York Times. Well, no, maybe I read it in The Guardian, or heard it on BBC. Or maybe it was in the South China Post. If you can't have those conversations, hang around for it. Singapore isn't some panacea. It's not perfect by any means. There are things about it I love. Things about it I'm not really crazy about. But my partner was here. It's a change of culture. It's a change of added. The community is different. People are different. Philosophy is different. I had a chance to do something different for the second half of my life at age 43. So doesn't mean I don't love the U.S. Doesn't mean I don't miss my family, my friends. Miss them a lot. Miss my dog the most. Who's back in Seattle right now, who we're trying to get here for. But moving is not an easy decision. I put 20 years of my life into a broadcasting career in the U.S. that I just got up and walked away from. Why? Well, when you start to realize how inconsequential sports for 15 years, when you start to realize how inconsequential sports are in the overall scheme of things, that it's just an entertainment outlet. Some people take it seriously than that. I can't at this stage of my life. So while I've spent much of my life talking about sports, and I'll still talk about it some on, there's just too many other things in the world. And not just politics. A lot of different things. And we're going to get into them here on this show. But we are talking about politics today. And that's why we're talking with John Aravosis, who I'm really looking forward to chatting with. He brains behind America blog, unprecedented podcast, a new Substack letter out. So we'll talk to him about that as well. Two-part interview with him that will air both parts tonight. We'll talk about hanging out with me. Up late. All social media. We're on every platform. I'm not going to run them all down. You know who we are. Stick around. All right, well, welcome you back. Up Late with Jason Page. I know some of you have said there's been audio issues that during the break. All the things we did to make sure we were prepared for the show. Everything seemed the audio, and then before we started taping our interview with you guys are having with the audio. I can see that my audio is kind of jumping in and so I'm going to keep an eye on it. Darn it. Try and get that squared away for you guys. Anyway, right now I want to bring you to a conversation. John Aravosis, just before we went to the audio, doesn't keep breaking up. Can't see, it's still breaking. Stay with us.